Have you checked the children? Your little mess
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And we got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are here to do another Patreon requested review. This was a poll winner of one of the recent months, and we are going to be talking about, what is it, 2018's Ghost Stories.
17 or 18, I know, right around there.
One
I
of
could
them,
double
yeah.
check, but yeah.
But yeah, so Ghost Stories was a UK anthology film that I remember seeing at the time, and the reason I didn't go head over heels for it at the time was there was a few things that just hindered my enjoyment of this film. And when it was re-recommended, I was like, oh, okay, I need to rewatch this. But I didn't remember a damn thing about it, really, until I rewatched it. And when I did, just for my overall thoughts, I found myself like really getting into it and then being really let down over and over and over again. So it's a well-made movie. It's an interesting watch with a great premise that just cuts itself off at the knees over and over and over again. So it's a weird watch for me. I enjoyed it. I both enjoyed it and didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little bit more. I'd never actually seen this and was totally unaware of it, so this was the first time watching everything. And there is the star power of the one guy, is
Martin Freeman. Yep.
Yeah, I was
but not until the last story.
Yeah, exactly. So being an anthology and everything, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, and some entries stronger than others and whatnot. But I did at least enjoy the premise of, I guess, the wraparound is what you would call it.
Yeah,
the fact that you've got this, guy who is a debunker of these, like...
He's a paranormal debunker.
Exactly.
A psychic debunker.
Yeah, and it lies in, and I guess this is a little bit of a segue into the story, but I did enjoy it well enough, a couple segments in particular, but then the last one where we get our star and everything, that one I thought was lame. And there is also a reveal in the end of the movie about what's really going on that did not work as well for me. I know that's like their big payoff in this one, perhaps.
Yeah.
But so you've got this paranormal debunker, and he has this opportunity to meet basically his hero, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so he goes to...
One of the original paranormal debunkers.
Exactly, and a guy that actually he looked up to so much because he was raised in this very overbearing religious household, and that's kind of why he wanted to break away and be like, no, there are no spiritual forces, either good or evil, there's just nothing. And so he goes and he meets this guy, and the interesting thing is that this dude, this hero of his, that he's like living out in the middle of nowhere in like a trailer kind of thing,
right.
And they thought he was dead. He had disappeared, but they never found out for sure if he actually was deceased or not. Turns out he's alive, and so our main guy goes to see him, and that's where he is sent on a mission of sorts to go back and actually see whether or not some of these cases he had worked previously were real.
Well, that's the thing. So apparently the old-time debunker had changed his position.
He's jaded, yeah.
He was jaded.
He was jaded.
He was jaded, and then he ran into these particular case files, so to speak.
Made him rethink
and
things.
They made him rethink things, and he felt like he had wasted all of his years trying to debunk things, that there's no way to debunk these particular stories. And he's basically saying, you're wasting your life trying to debunk things. Here, take these cases, and by the end of it, you should see what I'm saying.
Yeah, so he's like, don't follow in my footsteps, essentially.
Meanwhile, he's saying, follow in my footsteps to find out why you shouldn't follow in my footsteps.
Yeah, which is funny about it. And he even insults him. He's like, I'm familiar with your work, and it's like trash.
It's trash. It's terrible, yeah. But it is a very interesting premise as a setup.
Yeah.
The issue for me became the stories themselves, which weren't bad.
No.
They were engaging, they were intriguing, but in every single case, in every single instance, every one of these goddamn stories would get to the interesting bit where literally, just to take one example, one dude is down in these tunnels and he's following this ghostly girl thing.
The night watchman.
Yeah, and he like goes in, and it's supposed to be the most terrifying thing that he's ever experienced, and he goes into this, he follows the spectral and these noises, the spectral girl and these noises, and he gets in this room, and you see these hands like creeping up on him, and then it cuts away, and it cuts back to the debunker. where he's on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Where apparently that last guy finished his story right there.
It was kind of a
and that was
cop-out.
it.
Yeah.
And it's such bullshit, and it happens for every fucking story.
Which means
right
it was
when the story gets
deliberate, yeah.
interesting, they cut back and are like, wouldn't you be scared?
And that's what's
And it's
so
like,
strange,
we
like-
don't need to finish these stories and explain why these people got away and are able to tell these stories? And who would give a shit? That I would just assume this person is drunk if he just felt hands coming up on him, and then that's
And
the
then
end of the
nothing.
story.
Yeah, so it doesn't prove one way or the other.
Oh, I was
Going
so
for-
frustrated by this
Yeah.
fucking movie again.
Yeah, so deliberate ambiguity though, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe the big payoff, the twist at the end, is why it just kept.
I don't even remember the twist.
Pulling it back. Well, I mean, I actually feel like we have to. I'm going to spoilers it at the end, but so. I thought the second entry was a little bit stronger, and that's where he goes to talk with this kid who has like weird, overbearing parents that he's disconnected with, and so the kid starts telling him about this supernatural occurrence where he had a hit and run, and he goes and he drives away from the scene, and then he encounters almost like this. I'm trying to remember, since it's been a few weeks since we watched it, if it's the ghost pursuing him of the person he just killed, but because we get like a creature in that one, it's like this wood, like tree creature almost that's
Barely.
emerging right at the
Barely.
end, and then they pull it back right there too, dude.
Yeah.
It was my favorite of the stories, and they pulled it back right then and there as well.
They're
which
like, oh, are you interested? Yoink! We're done with that tale.
Sorry. And then we had the one with Martin Freeman where it was his deceased daughter, and where he meets him out in the woods, and he's like loading guns and stuff. And this is where we finally get a little bit more about our main character after the Martin Freeman story in the fourth one, because it flashes back to all of this residual guilt he has about the slightly handicapped kid who the bullies sent him into the tunnel,
Right.
and he gets lost and something really terrible happens. And so that's when you realize that this is really a tale about this guy's residual grief, even more so than the whole resentment of his overbearing religious parents. So I don't know, there was intriguing elements and ideas, which is one of the most disappointing things about this movie. Whereas I said I liked it, I did. But this truly could have been a lot better based on the quality of acting, which we can segue into right now. All of the performances were good, and all of the stories, I thought, honestly, which is where it's even more disappointing.
Yeah,
a
the
little
performances were good, the stories were good, the effects
Yeah.
were fine. I mean,
bit. Yeah,
it was
when
just,
we got them, they were.
it was just a very disappointing execution of all of it when you kept cutting away from all the interesting stuff once
makes
we
me
got to
wonder
it.
if it was
It's
like
like build,
budgetary
build,
constraints,
build,
maybe,
build,
or-
build.
I don't
Here it is, cut away.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why? And why no resolution on anything? Like, it just frustrated me, honestly.
Well, and the weird resolution, I guess we have to spoil at this point. Is
Go
there
ahead,
anything else
that's fine.
before spoilers? as
No,
far as
no,
music
nothing.
or
No.
effects or
So
whatever?
if you guys want to watch ghost stories, then skip this
yeah,
part
yeah,
for the
skip the
spoiler
very end
aspect.
here.
But
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend you waste your time on it.
Yeah, so you realize that the Martin Freeman character is almost like the devil, essentially, or like his inner
Right.
conscience or something. And so that ties in, like, there's the reveal in the final story where it flashes back to his childhood, all in his head and everything, about the fact that he has this guild, and the scene where they're walking on the train tracks,
Right.
and the whole reveal transpires because Martin Freeman, after the story with his kid, is like, it's like, here, walk through this door with me. And that's where the movie takes a complete twist. And then it takes an even further twist when you find out that, okay, all of the stories that he's been investigating were all in his head because he's been, like, on this hospital bed after a suicide attempt. And so, like, the guy mopping the floor was a dude in one story,
I
and
did
one
forget about
yeah,
that
and
stupid
then yeah,
fucking
and
reveal.
then like the kid who he was
Oh my
investigating the hit and
God.
run was like one of the like nurse assistants or
So
something.
fucking dumb.
So I think in a lot of ways they were really
It's
banking
like a
on the fact
stupid
that
supernatural usual suspects, but
Yeah.
done terribly.
yeah, and so I did not find the twist quite as clever because we've seen twists like that before, and so for that reason I was like, oh, so you kind of copped out on. And as we're discussing it, I'm finding myself liking it even more. So
Liking
excuse
it
me,
more?
Excuse me, liking
I
it
was
even
like,
less.
what?
And yeah, I just derped there. Sorry, guys. So yeah, I find myself, as I'm having not thought about it in a couple of weeks now, but I find myself liking it a little bit less. But
It's bad.
I wouldn't go as far as to say bad, but I definitely
Well,
didn't love it.
The execution is
yeah.
bad. Well, it's
Yeah.
not even the execution is
The
bad.
scripting.
The scripting, the story, the
Scripting
way it plays
specifically
out
is where I wasn't
is
as big
bad.
into
I
it.
mean, it's perfectly functional as a movie,
Yeah.
but it's disappointing and uninteresting, and you ask yourself, what the fuck, way too many times for the wrong reasons.
I
So,
can, yeah, I can concur with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's about as much as we can say about ghost stories, you guys.
Well, I spoiled it already for
I mean,
those
who
who
cares?
stuck around. But
It's all right. You're not missing anything.
No.
Let us know in the comments down below what you guys think of this one. Did you like it more than us? Is that why it won the poll? Or, you know, honestly, the polls are kind of small anyway, so it's just a few people voting. So it's a small sample size, but I'd be interested to know y'all's thoughts. If
Yeah,
you didn't
same.
have any of the issues that we had, what did you like about it?
Yeah.
What didn't you? Or did you not have the issues that we did? Again,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know y'all's thoughts. So,
I know we've watched a lot of anthology horror, and so that's why I feel
Yeah.
like maybe we're a little bit more critical, perhaps.
Fair.
I mean, I like 13th Locker, which was another poll request here.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot better. That
or
was a
Locker
recent-
13. as
Locker,
it were.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no,
That's one that I would
reviewed
recommend.
that. Yep, that's
we
on the
reviewed as a
Patreon page.
Patreon,
So yeah, if you
yeah.
haven't seen that and you're a patron, scroll back. You'll see that
Yeah,
that
Amazon Prime.
anthology
I think they're both on Amazon
review.
Prime. Both this and Ghost Stories, which we just finished up on. So
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you.
Hell yeah.
Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias. I've been Jaime Fuego.
And remember,
Stay scared.